Hi, I'm Amanda Carter, and I am going to talk to you about the history of Mount Rushmore. Mount Rushmore is in South Dakota's Black Hills National Forest. It is the site of 4 gigantic cove sculptures depicting the faces of U.S. Presidents George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, Abraham Lincoln, and Theodore Roosevelt. Originally, the mountain had no name. It was named after New York lawyer Charles Rushmore, who had traveled to the Black Hills on a mining expedition. When he had asked a local man what the nearby mountains were called, he was reportedly told that it had never been named before, but from now on would be known as Rushmore Peak, Rushmore Mountain, then Mount Rushmore. Seeking to attract tourism to the Black Hills in the 1920s, South Dakota state historian Don Robinson had came up with the idea to sculpt several giant natural granite pillars depicting historical heroes of the West. He had suggested Red Cloud as a potential subject. In August of 1924, he had contacted Gutsgun Bulgum, who was an American sculptor of Danish descent, who was then working on carving an image of Confederate General Robert E. Lee into the face of Georgia's Stone Mountain. Lucky for Robinson, Bulgum was on the outs with the businessmen and had soon abandoned the project. Bulgum himself had suggested that the subjects for the South Dakota work be George Washington and Abraham Lincoln, as he felt that it would attract more tourism to the state. He later would add Thomas Jefferson and Theodore Roosevelt in recognition of their contributions to the birth of democracy and the growth of the United States. Each one of the presidents that were chosen based off of what legacy they had as the country, what presented in the foundations of our country. George Washington was our first president. He led the colonists in the American Revolutionary War to win the independence from Britain. He was the father of the new country and the foundation of American democracy. Because of his importance, he is the most prominent figure on the mountain. The second president listed is Thomas Jefferson. He is the author of the Declaration of Independence, which is a document that's inspired democracies around the world. And he also purchased the Louisiana Territory from France in 1803, which nearly doubled the size of the country. Theodore Roosevelt provided leadership when America experienced rapid economic growth as it entered the 20th century. He was instrumental in negotiating the construction of the Panama Canal. He was also known as a trial buster for his work to end large corporate monopolies and to ensure the right of the common working man. Abraham held the nation during the greatest trial of the Civil War. He believed his most sacred duty was the preservation of the Union. Each one of these presidents left a legacy to our country. Each one of them leaves a foundation of democracy that we have followed for many years. During the time of the 14 years that it took to create this monument, 2 separate presidents came to dedicate portions of the monument to the country. In August of 1927, President Coolidge came and spoke. He had dedicated the beginning parts of Mount Rushmore, stating that it will be decidedly American in its conception, in its magnitude, in its meaning, and altogether worthy of our country. No one can look without really fulfilling. Coolidge goes on to state that its location will be significant. It is in the heart of the continent, on the side of a mountain which no white man has ever beheld in the days of Washington, in territory that was acquired by the action of Jefferson, which remained an unbroken wilderness beyond the days of Lincoln, and which was especially beloved by Roosevelt. And the people of the future will see history and art combined to portray the spirit of patriotism. Later, in 1936, President FDR came and spoke to dedicate the remaining parts of the mountain. He had said that the people of South Dakota are taking the lead in preparation for this memorial out of their meager resources because it is the American spirit is strong among them. Their effort and courage entitles them to the sympathy and support of private beneficiaries and the national government. They realize fully that they have no means of succeeding in the development of their state except as a reliance upon American institutions. They do not fail to appreciate their value. Not a single of the state of South Dakota had to put forth any money in producing this monument. It was all privately funded at the work of the historian, Mr. Robinson. This monument serve as a of our country. We have many monuments that serve as reminders of legacies left behind. We have some in Washington, D.C., the Lincoln Memorial, the Washington Monument, and the Jefferson Memorial. Those three presidents led our nation into the greatness that it is today. They are the foundation of who we are. And so their faces get to depict on this mountain for thousands of tourists who come to South Dakota every year to see this mountain. Hidden in the back, Fulgram wanted to complete a Hall of Records, which held, more importantly, the history of each one of these people, but he never got to have it completed. Also, when he was working on the mountain, his original plan was it to be carved from the waist up, but due to lack of funding, they could only do that at the faces. Mount Rushmore itself, each head is about 60 feet tall, and over 4,000 workers to complete. It shows a test of who we are as a nation and what our foundation is and what we can become. Thank you.